the ABC killer. His name was Moses Sithole, and this is not just another serial killer story. This is about how one man weaponized poverty and exploited desperation. Moses Sithole was born in 1964 near Boksburg in apartheid South Africa. His parents, Sophie and Simon, had very little, 5 children and not enough to go around. When Moses was just 5 years old, his father died suddenly, and the family was left with no income. What happened next would define everything. His mother made a choice that would shape everything. She took Moses and his siblings to a police station. She told the officers to never reveal who their mother was, just drop them off like unwanted packages. They were placed in an orphanage in KwaZulu-Natal, but systematic abuse caused the teenage Sithole to run away after 3 years, seeking refuge first with his older brother Patrick, before going to work in Johannesburg gold mines. A boy abandoned, an adolescent abused, a young man quietly, invisibly breaking apart. As early as his teens, his warped perception and hatred of women were evident. Despite appearing mild-mannered and charming, Sithole was quick to anger, particularly if he perceived even the slightest hint of rejection from a woman. Any sense of rejection could trigger a violent outburst. In 1989, Sithole was sentenced to 6 years for the rape of Boyiswa Doris Swakamisa. He was released in 1993 for good behavior. He walked out of prison with a smile on his face and a plan. Moses later claimed that it was his time behind bars that had led to the escalation of his crimes. Maybe while in jail, he had learned a lesson that would have a chilling, horrifying consequences for the people who would cross paths with him once he was back on the streets. Most of his victims were being interviewed for positions with Sithole's fake charity. Sithole would take them to remote fields where he would beat, grape, and murder them. They were generally strangled with their own underwear. Several victims were found with hands tied behind their backs. One still wore a blindfold. Many were left with pieces of clothing draped across their faces, as if to prevent them from staring at their killer in death. He gave them hope, then he took everything else. In September 1995, a police reservist was hunting rabbits in the veld near Boksburg when he smelled decomposition and stumbled upon a mass grave. Forensic experts were called to the site discovered and extracted a total of 10 female victims, each in various degrees of decomposition. 10 women in one field, hidden in plain sight. Media attention was intense throughout the recovery operation. President Nelson Mandela himself visited the scene of the grisly discoveries. The leader of the Free South Africa, standing at a mass grave, begging his people for answers. South African authorities virtually overrun by serial killers in the wake of apartheid's collapse, brought in retired FBI profiler Robert Ressler to assist. His profile indicated an intelligent, organized individual with a high sex drive, operating within a growing sense of confidence and perhaps with the assistance of a second killer. On October 3, 1995, a phone call was received at the Star newspaper from the man claiming to be the serial killer. As he seemed to have information not known to the general public, police were inclined to believe it was Sithole. To confirm it was really him, the interviewer asked for proof. Sithole provided details of 2 bodies that had not yet been located. One victim had been deceased for some time and found in a field with a sheet of metal covering her. The second was much more recent, found hanging in a tree. It was him, and he was taunting them. At one point, he even phoned the families of the victims, for no other apparent reason than to taunt them. He was not hiding, he was performing. Investigators traced a phone number that several victims had called before their disappearances. It belonged to a woman in Pretoria. When questioned about the fake charity organization, she pointed police towards her brother, Moses Sithole. His face was released to the media. The net was closing. With the manhunt now in the public domain, Sithole tried to seek assistance from family members. But undercover police intercepted him on October 18, 1995. Unwilling to go quietly, he was shot in the leg and stomach by a policeman, hospitalized, operated on, and transferred to the secure military hospital in Pretoria, where Sithole admitted to numerous killings while being interviewed. South Africa's most wanted man finally down. The trial was long, grueling, devastating. His wife, mother, tearfully on the stand, no longer loved him. She had separated from him 2 months before his arrest. She rejected his request to hold their baby as he sat in the dock, and identified stolen jewelry belonging to his victims and items he had given her as gifts. On December 5, 1997, Moses Sithole was convicted and sentenced to 2,410 years in prison, one of the longest sentences ever handed down in South African legal history. Justice David Curlews ordered that Sithole would be required to serve at least 930 years before being eligible for parole, making him eligible at the age of 963 years. The judge stated plainly, if capital punishment was still in use, he would not have hesitated. Moses Sithole was convicted of 38 murders, 40 rapes, and 6 robberies, all committed in little more than a year in broad daylight. 38 women, each one someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's mother. He once inflicted a head wound on the 2-year-old son of one of his victims and left the child to die from exposure in the field. There are no wounds adequate for that. There are no words adequate for that. He was our Ted Bundy, said documentary director Jason Hawes, who was a young boy in Johannesburg during the killings. Moses Sithole was uniquely South African, born of abandonment, forged in apartheid's orphanages, unleashed into a new democracy that wasn't yet ready for him. He is currently incarcerated in C-Max, the maximum security section of Pretoria Central Prison, the highest security cell block in South Africa. He is alive, he is fed, he is cared for. His victims are not.